Welcome back, everyone, and happy Halloween. Me and this particular author thought we would have some fun today. We're definitely in the festive spirit. So I have got a little mask on that I got from Venice years ago. I finally had the opportunity to wear it. And I'm so excited for today's interview. We are talking USA Today best-selling and award-winning author. We have been in the top 50, top 30 on Amazon numerous times. I am talking to the one and only Tia Louise. How are you today?
Hi, doing great. Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun and exciting. Thank you.
Absolutely. Now tell us about your mask. Where'd you get your mask from?
Well, this actually, I've had it a couple years, so I'm really excited that I get to wear it. I got it from Red Phoenix. She's an author. If you haven't heard of her, she writes really erotic, kind of dark romance. And she was giving these out at an author event I was at. So it's signed by her and it's so cute and I absolutely love it. So it's the first time I'm really getting to wear it. But yeah, so I got it from an author friend at a book signing.
Well, happy
Yeah.
Halloween. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, happy Halloween, everybody. Hooray.
Now, take me back from the start. I want to hear where your writing journey started. Why did you decide to write your first book and publish it?
I had been writing for a while. And this was the first book. I brought it. We've recently recovered this. So a lot of people, this book had a lot of downloads. So it's very possible that some of the viewers have heard of it, One to Hold. I actually got inspired by not really a friend of mine. It was a friend of a friend. And this was back when True Blood was on. I don't know if y'all remember that, but
Yes.
the guy, what was the werewolf guy's name?
Alcide?
Talking about? Yes, that guy. She was dating this guy who looked just like him. Like I did a double take. I was like, what? Did she meet him? Were they in New Orleans or something? Because they were filming that show all around where she lived. And so that's what I was thinking, but it was actually her fiance, I believe. And he was a Marine. And so I kind of got this great idea for this story. So I can honestly say it was inspired by a true couple, but none of the events of the story are actually their stories. So I'm not trying to say that this is from there. I just jumped off into fantasy land. None of this was their story, but I had this idea and I was just like, these guys, they looked at each other with so much love. And I just thought it was so cool. And it was kind of really inspiring to me. So I just kind of got the idea for this story. And I had been wanting to write kind of a romantic suspense type of adult, romance. And it's very steamy. It's very sexy. So this is pretty hot. This is probably 5 peppers. But this first book did so well that people were like, more. So I ended up writing a full series of books. There are 3. I have the big box set, which you can get these books separately, but I don't have all 3 of them separately. One to Hold, One to Protect, and One to Save is kind of the complete story of these guys. But it all started with One to Hold, and it was just, I actually wrote this book so fast. I wrote it in like 2 weeks, I think, and then just sent it out there. And I had a PR company. I had one author friend, Aletha Romig, who read it and was like, this is amazing. And she loved it. And so she was super encouraging to me. And so it just all jumped off from there. And it's just kind of been off to the races ever since, which was really cool. That was in 2013. So long time ago. And it was in Amazon Top 100. It was top in all the categories and everything. It's military romance, romantic suspense, super hot. But yeah, so this turned into an 8-book series and then just went on from there. And it's kind of been ups and downs, ever since. I didn't move into Kindle Unlimited until 2017 or 2018. And that was, kind of after a lot of people had already been doing it and were like, do it. And I was like, well, but I'm wide. I've always had my books everywhere, but I'm happy with that. I have found a whole new audience there and it's really cool. And I'll be honest with you, I just love writing in the romance genre because readers are so interactive and they talk to you. And I've made a lot of good friends, both as readers and as for fellow authors and bloggers. And, it's a really neat community and people are so supportive and fun. And at least that's been my experience. I know there are times when there's drama, but for the most part, look at my kitty. But for the most part, it's been I know he's like, hey, Halloween. Anyway, so that's how it started. Started with one to hold.
And that's crazy that you almost immediately got momentum, which is amazing for your first book. And that's obviously what encouraged you to write more. Would you
Yeah.
say it was because initially you did sort of put down the foundations correctly? Like you had a PR company, you had an author friend who was able to mentor you perhaps and guide you a little. Would you say a lot of your initial success was due to that?
It was a different time as well. I mean, that's kind of part of it too. Back then, it was very like when I got started back then, Goodreads was pretty popular. Like I know now a lot of authors are trying to use TikTok and stuff like that and really ads and things like that. I mean, back then it was kind of the era of big bloggers, like people like Natasha is a book junkie, and she helped me a lot. And Estes book blog. I don't think Estes ever read any of my books, but who else? Marcy. Is that how you say her name? Marysc. Anyway, a lot of these guys were really had huge followings, and if they would say check out this book, a lot of people would check it out. Like a lot of people would check it out. And Marissa had given me a couple of shout outs, and then I very cautiously approached some of the bigger reviewers on Goodreads and was just like, hey, I've just written this book, I'd love it if you'd want to read it, that'd be great. And a lot of them were really nice and did, and gave me really big push, really great reviews. So back then it was really just about doing the legwork. I mean, you really had to just kind of cold call or cold email people and be like, hey, you don't know me, but I see that you like these books. And it was a lot of work, and mostly just kind of researching people and then holding your breath that people weren't going to be like, leave me alone, man. And because some people would be like that. Some people were very, I don't appreciate spam, and kind of be ugly. And you're like, shit, just don't say anything bad about me. You're like, I'm sorry I pissed you off. Please don't slam me on the media. I mean, on the internet. And so, it was really kind of nerve wracking, but luckily I had a really great reception, and One to Hold just blew up. And so from there, that was a great running start. The only regret I have, honestly, I didn't really start a newsletter until probably my fourth or fifth book. And so that was frustrating, because I feel like, kick myself for that, because your newsletter really is kind of even more. I mean, there was a time when I felt like newsletters, are people really even using newsletters anymore? And now I think more than ever, newsletters are really your most valuable resource, but you really want it to be, you don't want to just build it. Because there was also another mistake that I made, was kind of jumping on newsletter builders and like doing big, giveaway things to try to pad your newsletter to have a lot of subscribers. But the problem with that is you just get a lot of people who, they just want to win a prize. They've never read your book. They don't really care about you. And so it's not as valuable of a tool when you just have a lot of names on there that aren't going to buy your books. When you send them a newsletter, new release alert, and you're like, I have a new book out. If they are not interested in you, then who cares if you have 20,000 subscribers and only 10 of them, buy your book. So that was another mistake that I made. So, so much learning, such a learning curve.
It's also interesting that you mentioned TikTok, because I want to know how you're finding it, because you've recently signed up and are doing videos now on TikTok as well. How are you finding it?
Well, I have not gone viral, but I have a couple of friends who have, and it has really pushed them all the way up to the top of the charts. So I mean, if you can get that wave, I don't really know how you catch that wave, but I mean, I have seen good results even on the little baby. I'll get like every now and then I'll have a video that'll get a couple thousand views, and I always see a bump. Or every now and then a book talker will recommend one of my books, and if their video gets a lot of views, I'll see a lot of sales. So it does have a one-to-one impact. And honestly, I don't even know why, because you can't put links on TikTok. I mean, it's not easy. So basically, I mean, it's a powerful marketing tool. And the people, and what I'm telling, like I'm telling my husband, because he's like, what are you doing? This is what our daughters do. And I'm like, I know this sounds ridiculous, but I'm telling you, this is selling books. And so like he'll be like in here, you are rocking out. What music are you playing? And I'm like, I'm making a TikTok. Shut up. Anyway. But I really do see, I mean, a response. And it's like you'll put this out there and the person sees the video, but then they have to actually pull up Amazon, search for that book, and then buy. That's a lot of work. Usually, when you're thinking about marketing, you're usually trying to make it as easy as possible for the person to act if they want it. Like that's why the Facebook ads and things on Instagram with the swipe up feature and everything are, really valuable, because you want, if somebody sees your book and they go, "Ooh, this is interesting," you want them to be able to go click and get it right then, and so what's amazing about TikTok is that the people who are looking at these TikToks are actually motivated enough to make those extra 10 steps to actually change, to pull up their browser, to search for you, to find that book, to go through all the search results, find that book, and then get it. And it's just really cool. So, I mean, I would say, I know it's awkward. And if you're not used to it, it feels like, oh God. I know at first I was like, another social media. Are you kidding me? We have to find another social media. But I mean, you kind of get a little bit addicted to it at first. It's really fun. And I mean, at least it's fun for me. I enjoy it. Some people might be like, oh God, I hate it. But it's kind of fun. You get to make these short little videos. They're not really as hard as you think. I did have my daughter help me and be like, okay, this is how because I was like, well, I want to do that. How do I make it do that? I'd send her videos and be like, how are they doing that? And she'd be like, oh my God. And then she's like, why are you on TikTok? And I'm like, I'm on Book Talk. Don't worry. You're never going to see me. I'm in book land. So, because TikTok is huge. I mean, and they do have that algorithm knows, and it will funnel you down into your little place. When you first go on, you're seeing everything, but they're trying to find what you're interested in. So you basically just keep swiping until you get to books. And then when you start liking them and commenting and interacting, then that's what they just start showing you, is more and more of that. And so it's a powerful tool. It has a little learning curve. Some people just blow up on it right away. I don't know why, if they're just magical, but and then you got people like me who are just kind of in the middle, and sometimes I'll do well, and then sometimes, most of the time, I'm just like, okay, but it's fun. I mean, I recommend it. I think you should try it if you really are trying to sell books. I think it's worth it to try it and see if you can make it work for you, because when it works, trust me. I have a lot of author friends who have it's blown their minds, and it's been on old books. Like they're like, I just did a TikTok for this 3-5-year-old book or whatever, and it's in the top 100 on Amazon. It's like, what? So yeah, so I mean, I'm telling you, it works. So I think Colleen Hoover would vouch for that. I think she had 4 books on the New York Times bestseller list after the Book Talk world went crazy over them. So, it's pretty wild.
TikTok's like such a hype place. It's such a hyped community. So as soon as people jump on something, they support it 120% with so much enthusiasm and energy. I absolutely love it. And speaking of hype, I would love to hear about your new release, Trouble.
Oh yeah, Trouble. Oh my gosh. It's so much fun. So this is it. This is Trouble. It's an office romance, but it's also sort of I say it's a frenemies to lovers romance, because they start off sort of, well, at the very beginning, our heroine is dating a guy who's a real douche. And so they kind of bump into each other at her cousin's wedding, because he is her cousin's coworker, kind of, mentor. And so that's how they meet. And then she thinks he's a cocky jerk. And so she's like, and I'm seeing someone anyway. So then she breaks up. Then they re-encounter each other again, and she gets a little tipsy and they hook up. And because she's mad about her boyfriend cheating on her. That's all very early in the story. But anyway, so then he ends up hiring her for like a gig that he needs some help with. And And so they kind of go from there. So they kind of go back and forth between, no, I can't, you're my boss, I don't sleep with clients kind of thing, to, okay, you're not my boss anymore, let's jump in the sack. So anyway, it's a lot of fun. He's actually sort of a grumpy, arrogant, hero, but you find out right off he's got a pretty dark past. So he's super wounded, but she melts his heart. Of course she does. She melts those cold walls around his heart. And it's really fun. I mean, it's super fun. It's a little angsty, funny, hot. I think you'll enjoy it. And it's featured in this month's bookworm box. And this is the really sexy cover. They have some extras of these. So if you go to the bookworm box and you want to buy the special edition cover, they really played on the Beauty and the Beast theme with the rose, and everything for that. And I just love it. I think it's gorgeous. And they're all signed. These are all signed. And but the good thing about the bookworm box is that all of this goes to child hunger charity. They don't keep any of the profits. They donate all the profits to charity. So this is in Kindle Unlimited, and this is the original, and then of course special edition. So shout out to those guys. But I just love it. It turned out really well. This is my latest release. So hope you'll check it out. But yeah, so that's Trouble.
The covers both look amazing. That's actually one thing I wanted to ask you about, is your covers, because when I went through your catalog, I was so in awe because your covers are so on point. And I was wondering if that's something that you always had from the start, or is that a learning lesson for you to understand your market and what they were after visually?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I was always very, very focused on the cover art. That was always important to me. The very first, honestly, I did, like I told you, I recovered One to Hold. The original cover for One to Hold was designed by Regina Wamba. She was a big cover designer at that time. So I kind of really, my biggest expense was hiring her to design my cover. And but I was like, no, it's worth it, because that cover is your one click. And a lot of times people will be like, I just had to have it because that cover was so gorgeous. And I mean, I'm the same way. So I'm like, if I'm that way, I know other people are that way. Because if I see something, I'm just like, give it to me. And but yeah, thank you so much. It's tough. I mean, honestly, I think this cover I got from Wander Aguiar. Never pronounce his name right. This one I got from Wander, this picture, but actually this picture came from Michelle Lancaster, who is down under with you. And they designed this cover, the bookworm box did. They had their own cover designer for that. So I didn't actually, all I did was, kind of give them some ideas and then say, yes, I love it. And but then, I've worked with Lauren Perry. She does periwinkle photography. So really, I just kind of go through, when it's time, I go through they all have stock on their websites, and I'll just kind of spend a day looking at stock. And sometimes, because I have been doing this for so long, sometimes Wander will send me a picture and be like, hey, I was doing a bunch of shoots and I have this, I think you might like it. And sometimes I'll be like, I don't like that, but I'm going to go look at some of the other stuff that you've done, because I like that couple, and then sometimes like, oh my God, you know me so well. Like Lauren Perry actually sent me, I don't know if you can see the image for this image here, which is the cover for One to Protect. And this image here, she actually sent me these two images because she had read One to Hold, and she was like, this couple is totally Derek and Melissa. She's like, I just shot them and I just thought of you. And I was like, oh my God, they are. And so I bought them obviously right away and used them for the next two book covers. So for that couple. So yeah, so thank you. I mean, it's a process, but I've kind of really, honestly, that's always kind of been a big deal. I mean, I think anybody who does marketing or any kind of how-to on books will say your cover is your number one marketing tool, because you'll use it on your ads. I mean, you'll use it, if you can use it on your ads, because, Amazon and Facebook can be kind of snarky about that. That's why I have two different covers for Boss of Me, because the original cover for Boss of Me is an image that I bought from Wander, and Amazon kept rejecting my ads because there's a bed in the picture. It's so dumb. the guy's sitting, he's fully clothed, fully dressed, and the girl is like behind him. It's this really pretty picture. She's like lying on a bed behind him and she's like cupping his face. So her face is here beside his, and she's fully dressed. I'm like, everybody is fully dressed in this picture. I mean, his shirt's open, but I mean, they're wearing clothes. Amazon was like, we can't allow depictions of sexual whatever acts. And I'm like, this is silly Amazon. So I had to change the ebook cover so I could advertise Boss of Me on Amazon. But I might change it back because I'm not really doing so much advertising with that on Amazon anymore. And it's such a gorgeous picture. But thank you. My covers are.
I love them. Well, then, okay, so now next rabbit hole. What's your process like in writing? Are you a plotter? Are you a pantser?
Well, I started out as a pantser. I when I wrote, like I said, when I wrote One to Hold, I just like flew out of the gate and just wrote it. But it was my first book, so I think I kind of already kind of had the story in my head. You know, it's kind of like those first few books. I don't know about you, but my first few books I just wrote so fast. And then, you know, as I went on, I started kind of, I would outline a little bit where I would like have like a Word document where I would kind of say, this is going to be in the beginning and this is in the middle and this is the end. And occasionally I'll get like scenes in my head. Like when I was writing Stay, which is another kind of standalone, it's a marriage of convenience romance. And so when I was working on Stay, I kind of had in my head, because the hero and the heroine are from the same sort of Upper East Side, New York City world. So they're both kind of the same. They know a lot of the same people, and she's kind of fallen on hard times, and she got divorced, and she has this little boy who's ill, and she can't afford, he needs this surgery and she really can't afford it. So they get married, and so he'll pay for it. It was basically that, you know, but of course they fall in love, duh. But anyway, so as I was kind of thinking about it, I kept getting these like conversations in my head that they would have and between each other. And so I was like I would just sit down and write it down. And I was like, I don't know where this is going to happen in the book, but they're going to have this conversation. And so I was like just dumping all these conversations into a Word doc. So that book was very strange, but I love the planning of that book was very strange, but I love how it came out, and a lot of people really love it. And it's some people call it their favorite book, but it's a lot of fun. But now I try to plot. When I don't plot, I don't know if it's because I'm older now, because I'm an old lady, but now I feel like if I don't plot, I'm like, did I already write that scene? And then I have to go back and like kind of reread. I'm like, okay, no, I didn't get there. And like I have two ladies who read as I go. Like I send them chapters as I go, and they'll be like, you said here that they had this conversation, but they've never had that conversation. I'm like, oh shit. Well, I was thinking about letting them have that conversation, but then I decided, no, I don't want to have that conversation just yet. So I'm holding it for later. And she's like, well, you said, he asked her, did you tell her? And he said, yes. I'm like, oh, damn it. So they saved my life a lot. So I'm trying to be more of a plotter now because it keeps me sane. But so see, I'm all over the place. I do both. I really like it when I sit down and make myself plot a whole book out, because it makes the writing so much easier, because it's like you just follow the map, right? And then if something changes, you can always change it, but it's kind of like you're just following the steps. And so when you sit down for your words for that day, you're like, okay, I need to write this scene, and you know, and you do it. But oh, to be that organized all the time. All right. It's like, no, I'm not that organized all the time. I wish I was. But maybe I'll start. Maybe that'll be my resolution for 2022, is to be that organized all the time.
So then what is your favorite trope to write?
I started out in romantic suspense, and I did romantic suspense for 2013, 2014, 2015. And then in 2016. I did it for 4 years, romantic suspense. And I loved it. But then I kind of was feeling like, you know what? I feel like I'm tired of romantic suspense. Like I want to do more like other stuff, you know? And so I think it was in 2017 when I wrote When We Touch that I kind of started moving a little more into kind of more angsty. That was a second chance romance, his childhood sweethearts, and he leaves and they break up. And then he comes back, and it's like, duh, you know, when they see each other again and time has passed. And well, it starts with him having an accident and then going home, and then they see each other, and it's like, shh. But that was my USA Today bestseller. So yay. So maybe it was time for me to leave romantic suspense. Everybody was like, we're tired of you writing romantic suspense. It's time for you to do something else. So I wrote that and it really did well. And so with When We Touch, I kind of made the pivot out of romantic suspense and into more small town, second chance, that kind of thing. And so I did that. I've been doing that since about 2017. And now it seems like I'm kind of kind of pivoting back a little bit more to the romantic suspense angle, because in Trouble, there is that element of romantic suspense. And I don't really want to spoil it, but there's kind of a bad guy. It's not the douchey boyfriend, but there's like a bad guy who's, you know, threatening, and that kind of adds an element of suspense. So it also adds a little forced proximity because she ends up having to move in with him, but to be safe, he, you know, wants her to move in with him, and then, you know, it all just gets hot. But anyway, so yeah, so there's a little bit of a thrill. And then in this last book that I just wrote, that is coming out in December, it's got a little touch of romantic suspense in it as well. So who knows? I guess I'm pivoting back. But for a while there, I did a lot of, and I like both. It's kind of like for a little while, you know, you're doing one thing and then it's kind of like, okay, let's just kind of freshen it up. But everything is kind of the same, kind of a little bit of angst, a little bit of small town, kind of humor, quirky characters, but that, you know, but then, you know, the really hot love story at the center of all of it. So I guess, you know, I like both.
So I want to talk about then when you hit the USA Today bestseller list, because that is amazing and congratulations. I would love to know when you found out and how you celebrated.
Well, it was really funny because it's one of those things where it was, I'm trying to think when it was in September or October. It was in the fall. It was in September of 2017. And it had kind of been a rough year. I had kind of a family tragedy had happened that year. And so it was kind of coming off of a really difficult summer. And I had already written the book, thankfully, when everything happened. And, you know, I had to go home for a little while and take care of my family, my parents. And it was really, you know, it was rough. And so came back and I was like, oh yeah, we got to gear up for this release. And I really loved the book. And was working with, you know, my PR company, and they were getting everything together. And I think I had done pre-orders on everywhere but Amazon, because Amazon kind of punishes you with pre-orders. But I'd set up pre-orders on all the other sites, and people were really responding to it. And it was cool. It was really great. And so when it came out, it really blew up, and that was exciting. But it's like, you never know if you're going to hit a list. All you know is you're selling a lot of books. But it really depends, the way those lists work, it really depends on the other books that are coming out at the same time and how much they're selling, because it's the bestseller of the week, basically. And so for that week, so if somebody, you know, you're just kind of competing and you don't really know who you're competing with, but you're competing with everybody, like romance, thrillers, sci-fi, you know, all the fiction categories are all in that list together. And so you really just have no way of knowing. So I knew I was selling a lot of books, and she kept messaging me. She was like, you're going to get it. And I was like, well, I just don't know. I really don't know. And she was like, tell me your numbers. And so I'm like telling her my numbers, because she's, you know, done New York Times and all kind of bestseller lists. And she's like, you're going to get it. I'm like, stop. I'm like, don't tell me that, because this is a really great release. And if I don't get it, I don't want to be all bummed out, because, you know, it doesn't matter, because I'm really happy that people are responding and liking the book. But it ended up happening. And it was so funny, because when I found out, my husband was out of town because he had to take a trip for his work. So I was home alone. It was so terrible. So I'm home alone when I found out. But the nice thing was, I had friends sent me flowers, and everybody was really sweet. So I had a little glass of champagne by myself, but it was so funny. But then when it came back, we had a little, my husband and I went out to dinner. I don't know. It was fun. But yeah, that's a crazy experience. I'll see author friends who are like, I can't believe I've done this 7 times, and every time it blows my mind. And I'm like, I know that feeling is just weird, because it's like, you know, you're seeing a lot of numbers, but you're like, okay, I don't want to get all into this, because you're selling a lot, but it just depends on everybody else. Like I said, you know, you don't know. It could have been the best sales week of your life, but if there were like however many other people who had another bestseller week of their lives, then you're out, and it doesn't matter. But it's like, God, don't get caught. I try not to get caught up in that because it'll steal your joy if you think about it too much. But that was fun. That was neat. That was a really neat experience. I was really thankful to everybody who pitched in and helped with that. So, and everybody who bought the book. So that was cool.
Congratulations.
What?
I say congratulations. It's amazing.
Oh, thanks. It was fun. And then I immediately went into Kindle Unlimited. but no, I really like being in Kindle Unlimited because you really get, I feel like you get a lot more exposure to like really like just dedicated readers. Not that everybody's not a dedicated reader. It's just kind of, I felt like I was disappearing in the wide market. And I feel like the romance community has really kind of coalesced around Kindle Unlimited because romance readers read so much, so fast. And I think it's an affordable way for them to get a lot of books, and keep up, feed their habit, which I love their habit. I love their habit. So feed that habit.
Speaking of habit and Amazon, then one thing that blew my mind was your blurbs. And the reason why I say this is because it's just so on point. The structure that you have for each, you have your hook, you have your information, what the characters are and what it's going to be about. But then at the end, you also have the disclaimers, this is a standalone, this is enemies to lovers, this has no cheating, this has no cliffhanger. And I thought it was just so on point. So I was wondering what advice you might have for authors who are listening, because I know it's one of those things that a lot of us really struggle with.
With writing blurbs?
Yeah.
Writing blurbs are hard. I mean, it's tough. I mean, honestly, the thing that I really do is I just kind of look at the books that are in that genre, that are in my trope, and just kind of see what's working. Like look and see the ones that are in the top 100, like if it's a sports romance or if it's a single parent or if it's a small town, go into Amazon's top in those categories and just read the blurbs and see what's working. And you can kind of get an idea for how to structure it. One of my favorite blurbs is the one for Wait for Me. And I actually got the idea from my good friend Tara Civic, who had done Fisher's Light. And it's like a letter. It's kind of like at the beginning, it's like a letter. And I was like, oh, that is brilliant. Cause it's like, it's like, it hits all the highlights and just like really gets you. And I'm like, that's so cool. That's possibly that blurb and the blurb for Song of Solomon. Amy Harmon's book. What's the one about Moses? You know what I'm talking about? Two of the best blurbs that I've ever read in my life. I'm like, these are the best blurbs. These need to be in the Blurb Hall of Fame because you're immediately buying that book. You're just not going to not buy that book. And I was like, so I'd always wanted to do that letter style. And so when I wrote Wait for Me is another big seller. And I know it's because of the blurb. So, if you haven't done a letter blurb, you might consider it, but it's basically like, you're writing the story, you're writing to the girl, writing to the guy and basically saying why, she won't wait for him anymore, and so you're just like, got it, when you're reading it. So it's like, so that's fun, so kind of look at different books that you like that have done well and kind of play around with it. Some of the things that work really well, like in the office romance department, can be like descriptions of the guy. I've always seen that works well. He's a jerk, he's this, he's that, and then but I love him anyway, but I can't resist him, kind of stuff. So that's always fun. And Whitney G writes a lot, and she gave a talk once that I thought was so brilliant, and I've actually never done it, but I think it's such a great idea. And it was a tip that she runs blurbs past her newsletter. Like she will have 2 blurbs in her newsletter and have people vote on which one they like better, which one would make them one click faster. And so she actually has like I don't know if it's a segment of her newsletter or if it's all of it, but she'll actually do tests with blurbs. And so, I mean, it's kind of a lot of trial and error. I don't know. I feel like at one time people would do blurbs in like his point of view and her point of view and split them up in the blurb. And that was kind of hot for a little while. And then that kind of fell away. So it's kind of always changing too. It's trial and error. And you can always change your blurb. That's a nice thing about it. If you put your book out there and you feel like it's not doing as well as you want, maybe try changing up the blurb a little bit, see if that helps. Heck, I even seen authors change their covers when they've released books and didn't feel like they were doing as well as they should. I've never gone that far, but I mean, I have recovered books, but it's just because they've been old. And I'm like, One to Hold had been out since 2013. I was like, it's time for a refresh. As far as the no cliffhangers and no cheating, that was just a question that I would get asked all the time. I felt like people would email me like, I'm interested in this book, but I don't want it to be a cliffhanger. And I have one series of books that it's a 3-book series, the Bright Light series, where the first book is a cliffhanger and you have to read the second one and the third one because that's the series. They're all in Kindle Unlimited. So, if you're in that program, it's no skin off your back. Just go download the next one. But that is the one thing where I do, but all of my books stand alone really. And, but I just started putting that in there because I was like, people would be like, is this a cliffhanger? Is this a cliffhanger? And I wanted to say none of my books have cliffhangers, but I do have that one. So, so now I have it at the bottom where I'm just like, no cliffhanger, no cheating. I don't write cheating. I don't like cheating. It upsets me too. So I'm not going to write that, but, cause I write to make me happy also. So if I'm not enjoying it, I can't expect anyone else to enjoy it. But yeah, I just started adding that. And actually I think I'd seen that on somebody else did it. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. That's a bright idea. So I started adding it at the bottom. And then one person called my book a novella. And I'm like, it's 73,000 words. That is not a novella. Somebody was like, this book is misleading in length. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, I don't even know what they were upset about. I don't know where they came from, but they wrote this review that said it was misleading in length and all this. And I'm like, no, it's a full novel. Don't put that. That's not true. So in one of them, I put a full 73,000 word, novel, I think. So, it's at the very end there, you can kind of, hopefully people will read that far. Some people say they don't even read blurbs. They're like, I just look at it. If I like the title and the cover, I'll click it. And I'm like, okay, well, good. Read the blurb. It took me a lot of time to write that. Just a lot of sweat and tears over that blurb. Read it. No, I'm kidding. You better read it.
Appreciate it, dang it.
I know. Love it. Love that blurb. It was work.
So then when you're releasing a book, what are your 3 must-dos on every launch? Are you like, I need to have these in place for it to have the best possible chance of meeting as many readers as it can?
That's tough because there's really more than 3. Let me think. Well, I do have kind of a checklist. I do work with a promo company too, which helps. So they usually will set up the arcs. I have an arc team of my own that's very small, but I also will go through, I'll let them do signups for arcs. So, getting the arcs out is key because the people who read it, the bloggers and all those guys, they're the ones who are going to talk about it. So, you want to get out in front of them. So it's really crucial to get people who are gonna, and you need to find people who like what you write. Like I wouldn't want to send my sweet small town romance to someone who only likes, Motorcycle Club or really super dark, erotic BDSM stuff, because they're going to be like, this book is boring. And it's like, they're like, there's no beating in this book. It's like, why isn't she tied up and crying to be let free? It's like, I don't write that. So, so you don't want to send your book to the wrong people. So, it helps to kind of, but that's where the PR companies will come in, because they can kind of put up a form and explain, put your blurb so that people know, yes, this is my kind of book, or no, this is not my kind of book. So they won't read it. But, so, finding the right people to review it so that, they'll like it and that it's right up their alley. So that's important. And then I also, try to do some cross promotions with other authors. If people are releasing around the same time, a lot of times we'll do like joint giveaways or things like that. Or, if, I'm always kind of in my newsletter, I have a little section at the end where I'll help, these people have new releases this week to check out. I usually do about 2 to 4 in all of my newsletters. And so I'll usually circle back and those guys will do the same. So I usually do like a trade-off for that. I was going to say, things are changing so much. We used to do big parties and groups and all. And I guess that's still a thing. Honestly, I'm kind of scaling back on that a lot. Kind of Facebook is still there. And, I still have a reader group that is very active on Facebook, and we have a lot of fun in there. And so, of course, I'll do things with my reader group. I'll kind of bounce around to other authors who write similarly to me, like who we have similar types of genres and kind of let them know, I have a new release this week, and kind of pop in and let people know and do like little giveaways and stuff like that. So pretty much stuff like that. Those are kind of the highlights.
So I have two questions then coming off that. One, what is the PR company that you use? And two, what is the name of your Facebook reader group?
Okay, I've used a couple of different ones. Right now I'm working with Gray's Promo. They are kind of a little offshoot of Valentine PR. And so I've been working with them, and they just really get everything organized. I don't really do like full-time PR. Some people do. I don't. I did do that for a little while, and I kind of gotten to the point where I don't know if I feel like I need it, because I kind of feel like I can do a lot of stuff with me and my PA, and my reader group is Tia's Books, Babes, and Mermaids, because it was originally Tia's Books and Babes, and then I kept having this like mermaid theme popping up in my books, because all of my books are usually set near the ocean. I have a couple that are set in the city, like one is set in Nashville, one is set in New York. Like I said, Stay is set in New York. And then one, Wait for Me, which is the letter book, is set on a peach farm in North Louisiana, which is for my husband. But because he grew up on a peach farm in North Louisiana, it's like, you need to write a book about that. I was like, okay. I was like, because I've been there several times, so I could do that. But anyway, most of my books are set at the beach. So we just kind of started saying we're mermaids, because, we're all our books are set at the beach, and we love it. And we love the ocean. So we added the mermaids. So now it's Tia's Books, Babes, and Mermaids. So on Facebook. So I hope everyone enjoys.
So cute. I'm definitely going to enjoy.
Yeah, we do fun stuff all the time. I'm going to be doing a bunch of fun stuff for Halloween.
So then what has been your most memorable reader interaction moment?
Had a lot. I mean, readers are so cool. I mean, I have readers who, like, I have a reader who made me a blanket, who crocheted me a blanket. I don't know where it went. I think I put it over there. It was that one that I was moving out of the way, because I use it, and it's like mermaid colors. I have one reader who is now my first line reader that reads my books as I write them, whom I met with One to Hold, and Ilona Townsell, and she is so great that I dedicated one of my books to her, and I have her in one of my books because she has been a loyal reader since One to Hold, and she's great, and she helps me a lot, and she's super encouraging. I mean, it's just, even like, I'll have readers send me cards and be like, I was really struggling, and I read your book, and it gave me hope. And that always to me is like, oh, because I do try, when I'm writing my books, I do try to kind of make them, like, even with trouble, like I was saying, he's super wounded, and I kind of try to, see, this may be going on in your life, this may be happening, but there's always a way out, and like the kind of the thrilling aspects, the suspense part of this book is kind of part of that. It's like you can still get help. And so I try to do that. I try to have not a message, but I try to have, like, there be an element of growth in all my books. So it's really nice when people respond to that, and they're like, this was great. And then of course I had this husband and wife set came up to me at a book signing, and they were like, we read all your books. And I'm like, oh no. I'm like, okay, too much information. And the husband was like, okay, in this one book we were reading, I want to know how you managed to. And I was like, no, I'm not walking you through how to do that position. You're gonna have to figure it out on your own, sir. Anyway, it was really funny. They were really just messing with me. But I'm telling you, it's a blast. I love all my readers, and they're just all cool, and they're all great.
What has been your greatest challenge and your greatest accomplishment in your writing career so far?
Greatest challenge? Well, I'll be honest with you. Probably the greatest challenge was pandemic, because I think everybody was talking about this in the writer community. I don't know if they were talking about it out on social media. I think I said a couple times that just kind of when we were going through the summer of 2020 and all of 2020, there was just so much just negative vibe in the air, and it just felt like everybody was scared, and it was just from the kind of fear of the unknown to all the crap being locked in your house, and everybody was just kind of, having a hard time. And then everything that was happening, it was kind of like there was just this heaviness, and it was very difficult because like I said, I mean, I'm writing romance, and there are heavy moments in some of my books that are, kind of sad. But for the most part, my books are uplifting and happy and, have a happily, well, it has to have a happily ever after to be a romance novel, right? And so when you're kind of feeling this down depression feeling, it's really difficult to kind of put that aside and write a happy book. And I was like, golly, maybe I should just take 2020 off. But you can't do that. I mean, this is my job. That was really tough. That was and I can tell a huge difference writing now than when I was trying to write, because you're thinking, oh, pandemic, that's great. Well, I'll just have all this time to sit at home and write books. And it was like, no words were coming, no words. It was like, just forget it. And you couldn't even feel like I couldn't get in that happy place. It's like everything just felt very, what is going to happen next? Why am I doing this? I don't even know, and so it was tough. Some people were able to compartmentalize. I had a hard time with that. 2020 was a difficult, really super challenging year. But so that was tough. But we came through it. Like I said, we came through it and things are getting back on track and it's really awesome. Biggest success. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I always feel great when I write a book that I really love that just comes out like exactly how I want. Like Trouble has been so happy to me because, when I sat down and wrote it, I didn't realize it was going to have this really cool Beauty and the Beast arc and it was going to end up being just so perfect. And I was really pleased with how it came out. And because Spencer had been a minor character in another book that I had written. And I thought he'd be a good character to pull out and kind of, write a story about because he's just got that arrogant vibe and he needs to be taken down a notch. But then, when I started writing it and kind of having that backstory, I was like, oh, this is, so sometimes, it's kind of sparkly and you kind of feel like I hope this comes out as good on paper as it is in my head because it sounds really good in my head. So hopefully I can get it from here to here. And so I'm always feeling a real sense of accomplishment when that happens. But I don't know. I mean, I'm just so grateful to be able to do this and to make a living at it and that people seem to like what I do. And so, I mean, that's a huge accomplishment in itself.
So then this is my favorite question to ask. What is the goal? What is the dream that you are chasing for your career?
Whew. Well, it changes all the time, right? I mean, I don't know. You kind of, when you start out, you're like, well, if I could just get enough people to read this book, that I could just write full time. Because when you're writing and working, that's tough. That is hard. And hats off to people who are still, having to do that because that's a juggling act right there. So reach that goal and you're like, okay, now I get to set a new goal. So honestly, my goal at this point is just establishing and sort of keeping a good, solid, reliable base of readers. And, and that changes because if you study the numbers, readers kind of come and go and their interests change and they may be with you for a while and then they drift over to someone else, and then they'll be like, oh, I forgot about you. And they'll come back. There's a little bit of, fluctuation in there. But really, I think the goal of all authors is just to have that good, solid, reliable base of readers who, if you release a book, it's going to do well because they're all there waiting for it. And so that's probably my goal now. And I want to make it a really big group. No, and I want it to be this big group that's so big. No, I'm kidding. So yeah, that's kind of the goal, I guess, now is really just, and a good newsletter list is part of that. So I'm kind of been working on kind of culling that, cleaning out a lot of the garbage and, getting that nice and useful, powerful tool going.
Now, I do have a segment. It's called Speed Dating with an Author. So you're going to go on a very romantic date. I lit a candle for the occasion, but basically what it is 5 rapid questions. Are you ready?
Yes. Let's do it.
What is the clumsiest moment you've ever had?
Oh my God. Wait, I had an answer for this and I lost it. Oh God, when I looked at this earlier, I was like, oh, what's my clumsy moment? Dang it. Oh, see this old lady brain. This is why I have to plot now. No. Oh, shoot. What was my clumsiest moment? Oh, darn. I lost it. I fall a lot. So, I mean, it had something to do with falling. And I think it was when I was at a book event and I was like trying to get stuff together and I fell and I was like, oh, I think I was going over to say hey to Tilly Cole and I tripped over I got caught up in like a velvet rope and I ended up falling on my butt right in front of her and she just laughed her ass off and thought that was the funniest thing ever. And now we're good friends. And that was really embarrassing for me. I wanted to die. I only had 2 glasses of wine and I was like, wah! And I think my feet even went up in the air. It was so embarrassing. It was humiliating. It was so embarrassing, but just was saying, it was about, I fall. I have a problem staying upright. So
I kind of wish I was there to see it. I'm
I
sorry.
mean, it should be on film, right? I could probably make money off of it. It was so humiliating. Oh God, it was so bad.
What are the 3 words that best describe you?
Oh, 3 words that best describe me. Oh, 3 words. I'd like to say I am generous because I do like to help people. I try to help everybody if I can, if I'm able. Loyal, because I really do try to stay loyal to people who've helped me. If people who've helped me along the way, if they ever, even if I haven't heard from them in a while, they show up, I'm like, yes, what can I do for you? Because people who've helped me, I'm always ready to help people. And I do remember nice things that people have done for me. I've had a lot of authors who've reached out and helped me at different times, and just they didn't have to, authors, bigger authors who didn't even have to help me have done. And it just means a lot. And I don't forget that. And fun. I like to have fun. I want everybody to just have a good time. I really do. And so I try to just, be light and happy and try not to get in the drama, stay away from the drama, run from the drama.
What is your life motto?
I should have a life motto. Just keep swimming. I think I have just keep swimming on a necklace. So we'll go with that. We'll go with just keep swimming because
Classic Nemo, Dory, love it.
it's a mermaid thing, right? Well, she's not a mermaid, she's a fish, but same thing.
Close enough. What is the song that best describes you?
Oh yeah, this one is the one I was thinking of. This one I sat and thought about for a long time. And I know this is lightning round. And my husband is a Tom Petty fan. And every time the Tom Petty song Won't Back Down comes on, he's like, this is your theme song. And I'm like, okay, it is. So let's go with that, because apparently that's my theme songs.
What is a unique talent or skill set that you have that not many people know about?
Well, I can juggle, but only 2 things at one time. So that doesn't really count. I'm just teasing. I can cross my little toe over my next door neighbor without touching it. Look at the cat. I don't know. I can summon cats through the force of
Halloween time, here we are.
I don't know. I don't think I have any special weird talents or anything.
I think the toe one counts. I've never seen that.
That's just weird.
I love it though. That's cool.
I stick my foot up and cross the toe.
I have had such a good time. Tell us what we need to know. Where do we find you? What's coming out? And I believe you have a special little sale for the Halloween season.
Yes. Okay. So I typically write contemporary romance, military romance, romantic suspense, small town second chance. That's kind of my primary area. But I do have 2 paranormal romances. The first one is One Immortal, and this I actually wrote for the One to Hold series. It has all of the characters from One to Hold in it, but it's in sort of a it's set in New Orleans. It's vampires. It's more like Anne Rice kind of vampires than Stephanie Meyer. So I have this guy, and then after this one came out, it did pretty well, and I got recruited to write a shifter romance, which is One Insatiable. So I usually do something fun with these 2 guys around Halloween. I'll be doing a giveaway for this one in my group, but this ebook is going to be free on Kindle from the 29th through the 31st. So Friday through Sunday, get One Immortal, which is the vampire romance, and check it out. See what you think. If you like paranormal romance, it's all set in New Orleans. It's super fun. It's exciting. It's sexy. It's thrilling. Melissa is a vampire and Derek is a vampire hunter. So yeah, so they cross paths, and that's a big disaster for them. But it all works out. Anyway. What do you think? My cat.
Got your kitty there.
I know he is right there. But so that's the big sale. Where can you find me? My website is tialouise.com. I'm on Facebook. I told you my reader group on Facebook is Tia's Books, Babes and Mermaids. On TikTok, I'm at the Tia Louise because Tia Louise was already taken, so I'm the Tia Louise. And then on Instagram, I'm author T Louise, letter T. I know. Why did I do that? I don't know. But if you search for me as Tia Louise, it should pop up. But author T Louise on Instagram. So I think that's all the places where you can find me.
I am so excited to start Trouble. And also, I want to say a huge thank you for coming on and watch your space. Maybe I'll be able to get you back on next year as well.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I would love that. Thank you so much for reaching out. I really appreciate it so much. This is always so kind and nice when people do that. I really like it.
Absolutely. Well, happy Halloween, and I'll talk to you later.
Okay, happy Halloween. Well, bye, guys. See ya.